Failure of developing countries to develop and industrialize is usually traced back to deep and widespread poverty and backwardness. This belief was hardened into dogma. In fact, the free play of the relative international price system and the colonialization were the causes of deep and widespread poverty and economic backwardness of developing countries. India provides one of the most striking examples of the deformation of her economic structure by means of free trade. India used to have a relatively advanced economy up until the 18th century. It was a manufacturing and an agriculture country and was well known for its exports of luxurious fabrics and articles. British colonialization destroyed the Indian industry and impoverished its population. In the previous lecture, we have discussed the impact of the relative international price system on the economies of developing countries with backward economic structures. Under the pressure of this system, the economic structures of these countries were deformed, and these countries lost the opportunity of creating modern industries, and part of its active population turned into overpopulation. The question that arises now is how developing countries could establish these activities and absorb the overpopulation. Every government has the necessary means to disable the destructive effects of the international prices, such as tariffs, subsidies, and the like. By applying these measures, the level of the relevant domestic prices of output, production factors, and the level of imposed taxes could be changed in such a way as to make investment in the relevant activities profitable. In this way, government intervention could enable the non-competitive producers to survive, develop, and venture into strategic and high-tech industries. Protection, however, exerts negative effects on the economies with modern structures, simply because it causes stagnation. Such economies benefit immensely from free trade because it provides, above all, with the necessary incentives for innovations. In order to survive and expand, the producers of industrial countries must continuously introduce new production methods and new products so as to decrease production costs and increase the use value of the final products. Free trade enables, in addition, the deepening of international specialization and the benefit from economies of scale. The benefit from free trade and the risks of economic stagnation resulting from protecting a properly structured economy shows that the application of protection cannot be more than a phase of development of the national economy. This phase ends with the end of the restructuring process of the backward economy. On the level of a given activity, protection ends when the individual producers acquire the international competitiveness. During the 19th century, protection was applied successfully by British rivals who were lagging behind in technology, such as Germany and the United States. These countries usually protected internationally non-competitive producers of one or a couple of activities, and protection ceased once the producers obtained international competitiveness. If developing countries with backward economic structures could in principle establish modern industries and absorb the overpopulation by means of protection, then why did these countries fail to protect their producers? In order to enable answering this question, we must first discuss the evil aspects of free trade. After the Second World War, a great number of developing countries started to industrialize and protect their internationally non-competitive producers. Big former developing countries, such as China and India, started after independence to restructure their economies on the basis of protection. They benefited from their vast domestic markets and domestic resources. With the advancement of the restructuring process and improvement of productivity, a preferable position in international division of labor was established, and both countries shifted to free trade. At present, Brazil is providing an excellent example on the connection between the maturity of the restructuring process and the obtaining of international competitiveness. Brazilian producers are heading towards achieving international competitiveness. In order to meet this target, the government provides the necessary protection here and there. This intervention will definitely stop when the majority of producers have obtained the international competitiveness. Because of certain geopolitical considerations, some former developing countries, such as South Korea and Singapore, were restructured with the help of multinational corporations. As some developing countries became newly industrialized countries, the great majority of developing countries continue to face huge problems in connection with restructuring of their economies. The following question arises now, in connection with the application of protection. Why did the relative international price system remain active after the decay of the old colonialism? President Bush's real free trade intentions can be judged by the way he dealt with the economy of Iraq during the U.S. occupation of Iraq 2003-2011. The invasion of Iraq resulted in the complete destruction of the Iraqi industry and infrastructure. 1.2 million Iraqis were killed and 4 million were displaced. A great number of Iraqi scientists, medical practitioners, and medical scientists, engineers, thinkers, and the like were eliminated. After the destruction of the Iraqi industry and infrastructure, free trade was imposed on Iraq by the U.S. occupying power. This time, the target was paralyzing the agricultural production. Since agriculture cannot be destroyed by bombing, the imposition of free trade was the solution. With the absence of electricity and supplies of local fertilizers factories, which were destroyed, and the damaged infrastructure, the agricultural production couldn't survive without protection. After the collapse of the agricultural production by means of imposing of free trade, almost the whole population of Iraq lost access to the wealth of the country. This population became dependent upon the government rations, which are based on food imports paid from the earnings of oil exports. In this way, the majority of the population of Iraq turned into overpopulation, living below the poverty line. As we have indicated earlier, there are two groups of producers which cannot be affected by free trade. One of them is the producers engaged in mining and processing of precious raw materials. These producers escape the destructive effects of the relative international price system. The Iraqi industry was based on precious raw materials such as oil, gas, phosphates, and the like. That's why the Iraqi industry was not possible to destroy by means of imposition of free trade. The Iraqi industry was destroyed by means of wars and severe embargo. The other group of producers which cannot be affected by free trade is the farmers growing trees or shrubs for food or beverage, such as coffee, tea, banana, and the like. The key for dictating the international prices for such products is the control over lands in regions with appropriate climate conditions for such agricultural production. This is why the multinational corporations take the land from small farmers producing food for the local population and establish highly mechanized production for export markets. These farmers were impoverished and exposed to starvation. Taking the land from the original farmers and linking production of this land to the world market is one of the ugliest forms of evil free trade.